Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Today we are going to look at JLA 18 and 19. Now, Grant Morrison took a break, and although we're going to cover two issues today, there is a a gap in which Mark Waid writes the JLA, but we're only going to look at 18 and 19 today, and then we'll get to the other ones later. I am serializing or shouldn't just say Grant Morrison's run, the JLA run, through roughly 60 issues or so, I'm planning, and so I have in the description below, or not in the description, in the playlists. In the playlist, I have a JLA playlist. So if you want to catch up to the first couple ones, you are free to do so. On the description below, I have a link to my social media. I just post my drawings. That's it. I don't bother you with political stuff or ramblings or anything like that. I just post my art a couple times a week, and that's it. Also, I will have a description to the DC fan page, the DC wiki page, as it's sometimes called. But the fan page, I'm going to have links to the story where you can look at the plot and characters. If you're not familiar with any of the characters that we're going to go with, you're free to do that. So we start out with this awesome cover by Howard Porter. Howard Porter is the regular series artist, and he will be doing these issues with Mark Waid that we're covering today. But like I said, Mark Waid is going to be the writer. So even though I am showing you a digital copy of it because it's just easier to show you, I own these issues. I actually have them all, but it's just easier to show you digitally than it would be for me to put them in here. So, all right, so let's get started here. This general here is asking this guy if he can fix a Jeep, and he says, well, I'm not that kind of mechanic, sir. Of course, he works in quantum mechanics. And then he says, too bad, because that's the only way I'd approve your colossal budget on the military. And he's like in small print, kind of to himself, expecting me to believe that luck comes out of machines. So he denies his funding, tells him that there would have been others that would have approved it, but he's not one of them, and asks if his fancy computer can fix that. And he goes, well, let's see. And then you can see him tap. And in here in this thing, there comes like a fiery thing, and suddenly, boom, 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 boom. And the next panel here, he's being given the grant, and he says, oh, my condolences to the general's family. I'm sure he's looking upon this moment with wonder. And he's been unlucky his whole life, but all that is about to change. So I love the JLA. It is so sci-fi-ish. So here we got something going on. If you recognize this color scheme, you can kind of figure out who's there. So we're in the Snake River in Idaho, and these guys robbed a bank, and you can see them holding the bag of money. And they're saying Plastic Man was after them, but they seem to have lost him, and then realized then that it's Plastic Man. So of course they start to shoot him, and and they're like, I thought it was him for sure, because they start to sink. And of course, here's Plastic Man. So Plastic Man's gonna deal with all of them, but they all, as you can see here, they all disappeared, and he is of course confused because all disappeared. Of course, they didn't really disappear. Aquaman grabbed them from underneath. So, and they're gonna take him to the authorities. And then Plastic Man asks if he gets credit or something, and Aquaman tells him there's no stats and all that. But then suddenly Aquaman does start to disappear, and here we get that physicist Julian September won the Nobel Prize. Of course, Julian September is who we started out with. So now we're in Gotham City, and we're at Wayne's Tower, and these guys are trapped in an elevator, and here's Bruce Wayne, and they can't figure out a way out, and this guy is he's got a bomb here and tell him they're all gonna die and he didn't deserve to be fired and there's nothing wrong with him, and he's like, clearly. And this guy's like, give him his job back, and he says, I intend to, and is gonna press, but then he's hit by an arrow that stops the clock. The Huntress hits him and breaks the timer and tells him that she just overheard the explosives dealer bragging about this hit when she had busted him, so it was just by luck that she arrived. And then all of a sudden she also disappears, and then he's holding a newspaper, and it says here, Julian September stock whiz turns market upside down for a 7th day. So we got stuff going on. So in Newark, New Jersey, Wonder Woman's trying to turn this airplane on oh my gosh, I forgot what that piece is. The rudder. She's trying to have the rudder turn, and all these airplanes are showing up at the same time, which is not supposed to happen. Superman is still with his electrical powers, so he's trying to, do stuff, but these airplanes are about to hit each other, so Steel throws his hammer hitting the engine, which causes a bit of a power. So one airplane will go under the other, and they can still land even with a. You don't crash an airplane by destroying an engine. They're designed to fly with one engine, and so they land, and they're like, "What are the odds that all this would happen?" Suddenly, all these or there's a Steele says that there was a computer glitch, and he's wondering, what about all these newspapers? What's going on? And then these newspapers engulf Steele, and then he ends up disappearing too. So, and then here we have Julian September wins lottery 7 days straight. So we definitely got stuff going on. This is early computer coloring this is from 1998. So at the Watchtower, Martian Manhunter here is listening to Batman and Wonder Woman recount their stories alongside Big Barda, who had a similar tale with Orion and Zariel disappearing before her eyes. And then, of course, we get the title, and the credits would have appeared here as well. So he contacts Oracle, who used to be Batgirl. During this time, Batgirl was in the wheelchair after being shot by the Joker, and so she is Oracle, and she wants to tell him, or she tells them, that there's a huge wave of improbable coincidence occurring throughout the globe. So, and then Green Lantern comes in and says that him and Flash are being there's 7 supervillains that all 7 tried to kidnap the president at the same time, and they all showed up at the same time. So they have a big mess in their hands. And so the League is going to teleport down there, and the Flash grabs his wife, who is a reporter, and he asks what she's doing there, and she's like, she flew in for the conference. So the League ends up teleporting there and helping Flash and Green Lantern. I love. What is he firing? He doesn't have. I love it. So this is why I love superheroes uh, so much more than just your normal. I'm all for adult comic books too, but there's nothing like superhero comic books. Barda asks for Batman, and Superman says, "Oh, that's right. You're new to the team. You actually expected him to partner up." So Superman, of course, knows Batman full well, and so they go into the Oval Office, and the president is none other than Julian September, and Wonder Woman is surprised, and she's like, "You're the man on the newspaper," and Plastic Man says on television. And so telepathically, the Martian Manhunter and Oracle are speaking, and she tells him about Julian September, who claims he chanced upon a way to manipulate coincidence on a subatomic level, something about a photon experiment. So they believe that he's responsible for this. So Superman's like, "We have a. I don't think you're supposed to be here." And Martian Manhunter says, "Come with us." He, of course, uses his little engine of chance, as it's called. And, I'm very surprised at how flawlessly Mark Waid uses very Grant Morrison like to tell this story. So he says he can the chances of creating an earthquake to rip through Washington D.C. and so that's what we got here is an earthquake. And then we have Oracle here. Like I said, it's Batgirl in a wheelchair. She tells him that the probability field has increased, and tsunami is going to arrive in Mobile, Alabama, and the tallest skyscrapers now are bursting into flames, and just it's hard to predict what's going to happen next, she says. He tells him that he's been unlucky his whole life, and Plastic Man's I love that the oh, this is so cool. He's so funny. So the umbrella here on his hands, and he says, "Lucky 7 bad guys showed up to smoosh you," which I think is funny. But then, of course, he said, "The mighty JLA showed up. It all benefits me, and so you can't take him down. I'm Fortune's child." But suddenly, and you can see Batman has arrived and hits his little engine. Batman has damaged the engine, and he says it doesn't matter. With him, the engine, with the engine shattered, the odds are I'm not even here, and he's disappeared as well. And they ask him what took Batman so long. He says one of the keys kept malfunctioning. And then, of course, she says, "On behalf of a nation, I'd like to say thank you for a job well done." All of a sudden, this woman now is the president, and Green Lantern is like, "About time we had an easy case." Well, the big three are confused as to what's going on. So Batman deduces that even with the engine destroyed, the events are set into motion. So all these improbabilities are occurring faster and faster, and they'll accelerate into a chain reaction. And Batman here is taking notes as to all the stuff that's kind of happened before. So Flash is telling him how happy he is. He's here because Batman is able to solve everything. So Batman realizes that all the Justice League is being dwindled to 7 members. And by the way, I wasn't very clear, but when Batman couldn't get there, he said that it was the 7 key wouldn't allow him to. So he was having issues with that number 7. So he realizes now that the number 7 is coming to play. The event with Aquaman at the Snake River is 7 Devils Canyon. So, And he says he had everyone's having encounters with seven airplanes, and Julian September is a seven of swords, as Julian suggests July, the seventh month, so not September but July. So, and it says here September is the seventh cycle of an ancient Roman calendar. So, Batman, gosh, the knowledge he has. So he calls it synchronicity, similar to what the well, exactly as the name of our story here. So they asked him, "What does it mean?" And so Batman tells them that there should be no more disappearances for of there because they're stable at seven members. See, and Flash is like, "See, I told you, he knows everything." And then he starts explaining some other things, but then suddenly he has disappeared, and now they're all like, "Batman." And so now we go to our next issue here. Like the cover, early computer coloring. Mark Waid is the writer. So same art team, Howard Porter and John Dell. So we get a bit of a recap with all the number sevens and fighting Julian September. So we get the first page is sort of recapping everything with the history, America changing. So, and it seems here a day where anything is possible. So here we have the return of Bruce Wayne, who is no longer Batman. So, and we got the name of our story, The Seven Soldiers of Probability. Green Lantern is confused because they were under the understanding that nothing was going to happen. Real quick, Plastic Man is... oh, goodness gracious. Oracle talks with Superman. Superman and Martian. Only Superman. I think Superman and Wonder Woman are the only two that know Bruce Wayne is Batman at this time. Now everybody pretty much knows. And she's saying that the reason that there's no Batman is because his parents were not killed. The gun misfired. So, since the gun misfired, there's no Superman. Oh, sorry, Batman. So now they're all wondering about the message of the seven. So now they need to figure it out. And just as they're flying, the world keeps changing. And Oracle is thinking. And of course she says 2 bullets never fired, just as she's thinking. And so even though Julian September, they need to find him. They basically says that even though it says here that September itself is not responsible for this per se directly. Once he began manipulating the laws of chance, the universe began a counter game of probability. So he says that they go back to that synchronicity, and until they determine that significant, September is still their prey. And Superman says, "How do you find him?" And he says, "I have my ways. I am the Manhunter after all." And then Flash says, "I've never seen John so angry." And so John turns himself invisible and goes into the Pentagon, goes into the file room, uses he's got a sort of Superman's powers. And of course, notice this picture here. So these guys come in and notice that someone's in here. So he changes into the King and says, "Give me everything we have on his likely whereabouts immediately." And so she gets a phone call, and it's Bruce, and he's bringing his mom and dad with him. She let it go. Well, what we would now call voicemail, but back then it was an answering machine that had a tape inside. So, and here they're trying to deal with the tides, and we just got a whole mess in our hands. So what's happening is the world is spinning faster. So now a day takes 7 hours. And the strain, of course, as the planet moves faster, that means the wind moves faster. So they're hoping that Martian Manhunter was able to get September when he sends them a signal to come meet them. And so here comes the League. So they find September, but he has dead of a heart attack. And so they won't be able to interrogate him. And Superman says the computer files are encrypted and asks Oracle if she can decode them. And John calls her telepathically. He says, "Not now." And he tells her what's going on. He realizes that she doesn't want to do anything, and he assumes that it's hoping that the bullets that the Joker used on her will heal her. He says no. He doesn't want to have the Waynes re-killed. Of course, we know the Earth. There's really no choice. I mean, the whole planet's going to get destroyed if she does nothing. So I understand kind of they put it here for that human element, but it's really no choice. It's the whole planet or the Waynes. So John tells her that being in the JLA is about making hard choices. And so Flash says, "Is she going to help?" And he says, "I don't know if she will or won't." And then Superman says, "We're in," and she did unlock the files, but they're incomprehensible. The speaking that other language or scientific language. John, of course, starts to fade, and they're like, "No, how can this be? Seven? What? Seven's the constant, and 7, 7." And he's like, "None of us are physicists, so close, blah blah blah." And then he realizes, when the Atom arrives, tell him everything, and then he disappears. So he figured out what was up. And they said, "But the Atom's not here." And of course, the phone rings, and the Atom shows up. Now, this is not my favorite costume of the Atom. I prefer the one of the classic ones. He was trying to phone to his home, but he ended up here. And so Superman explains to him he is, after all, a physicist. And he takes a look and says, "Uh-oh." He says Batman was right. The sevens are pointers. And he says you won't believe what they're pointing to. And he's looking for a photon and then sees this and goes, "Aha." He explains to them about an experiment that was conducted, but I won't bother trying to explain that to you. So they determine a synchronicity. So he's going to get some stuff from each of them to build something. They're basically they're speaking all science-y here, but for the purpose of the story, we're just gonna kind of move it along. Otherwise, we'll be here forever. Essentially, they have to stop those 7 photons that are still inside the containment unit. So that's what they need to do, is fight. So, or to do that. So he uses his atom powers to shrink everybody. So Bruce has arrived at Barbara's place. And so inside in the subatomic is the JLA fighting. Or, doing their thing. I keep saying fighting, but not really fighting. So they're going to stop what's going on. So they're basically stopping the protons. So and of course more probability stuff is happening, and Here's the Flash, kind of. Oh, I think that was the Flash. Yeah, it was the Flash. And so Bruce is coming along with his parents. And so they're going to form a human chain and basically. And she says, Bruce, forgive me. He touches it and he comes in as Batman. I have to tell you, this color palette, it's serviceable, but I love that light blue. I know why they changed to this, but I really love that the light blue. This is more of a greenish one. And Batman's pondering why he's there. And she says something wrong, and of course she knows, but she says no, not anymore. And so everyone that vanished is now present and accounted for. And so we got our epilogue here. Oracle asks how he knew that the Atom would replace him. He says he wasn't sure, but he was playing the odds. He says the Atom was the 7th to join. I don't know whether that's true or not, but we'll just pretend that it is. He apologizes for misjudging her motives. Thinking that she wanted to heal her legs when she was actually trying to help Bruce. He asks about leg prostheses, but she doesn't want to be half a robot. And so, and she's okay being what she is. And of course, we end with Batman going into the cemetery to see his family. And we end with whatever happens in this world happens for a reason, which we always hear a lot, but that's not true. But we sort of makes us feel better. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. So JLA 18 and 19 from 1998, written by Mark Waid, not Grant Morrison, but drawn by Howard Porter and John Dell. Like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.